What's crack, everyone? Hope you're all keeping very well. So I'm currently in windy Belfast in the city centre here, and I'm just off a street called Amelia Street, and I'm here to talk about a bit of a fascinating history. Hello, how's it going? Of this street and its name. So this is a bit of an unknown history, I think, for a lot in Belfast. But did you know that Amelia Street, this entire area here, used to be Belfast's red light district? Of course, nowadays it is not. It is home to Belfast icons such as the Crown Bar and of course the famous Little Italy, which I believe is Belfast's oldest pizzeria. But I've been going to that since I was a kid, so if you ever visit Belfast, definitely need to visit that. You've got some new additions around the corner. Amelia Hall is just around the corner, and then you've got Belfast mainstays such as James Street too, which is one of the best restaurants in Belfast. Back to the history. So Amelia Street, it was Belfast's red light district. There were inns and taverns and different sort of accommodation spaces for people around this entire area. And Belfast was a working town. There was a lot of linen production, of course. It was a port town. There was a lot of sailors. And around Belfast, especially, like any other port town in the Georgian and Victorian eras in particular, there were brothels. There were sex workers. The main brothel that I know about is where McHugh's bar is now. That's the oldest building in Belfast. It dates back to 1711. There are little sort of hints to that within the place, such as the hanging naked man inside it, and obviously the bronze asses in the window and things like that. I've covered those in previous videos, so definitely check those out. There was a brothel in that building because it was an inn. It was very close to obviously the River Lagan, and the River Farset was beside it, and sailors at the time, when they're months and months at sea, when they come back to port towns like Belfast, they just get paid. They've been months at sea, very lonely. They want food, accommodation, and women or men, whatever tickled their fancy. But that wasn't the only place. There were brothels all over the place, as I said, and it is said, although I cannot find any concrete evidence, to sort of hearsay and different stories from certain people I've talked to, including people in the Crown Bar in front of me here. But yeah, the Crown Bar, before it was just a bar, was a tavern and an inn. It was called the Railway Tavern, Railway Inn, and apparently there was a facility, a brothel, on the top floors. And that's where we come back to the origins of the name of the street, okay? So you can see here, it's Amelia Street. Nicer sign up there. And Amelia is said to be one of the sex workers who worked in the area. So, Amelia worked around the streets here, but she also, it is said again, worked in what either was the Crown Bar, the precursor to that, on one of the top floors here. And in Belfast folklore, there's a bit of a tragic story, a tragic end to Amelia's existence, because she was said to have been murdered on one of the top floors. She was pushed down the stairs, I don't know, by somebody who worked in the building, or maybe by one of the clients. It was tough for women in particular back then, but Amelia was pushed down the stairs and she broke her neck. And people in the Crown and people who have worked there over the years have said that the Crown is haunted by the ghost of Amelia. So in turn, the street was called Amelia Street after its famous resident ghost. And across the road here, I'm going to go across in a second here, you can see it in the distance, there are two sculptures there that pay tribute to the history and to that fact, to Amelia in particular. So just across the road from Amelia Street is this sculpture here. This is actually called the Monument to the Unknown Woman Worker. This is a tribute to the working class women in Belfast. You can see all the different trades that women have done across the city here. And it's meant to represent how often underappreciated and overworked women, particularly here in this case the women of Belfast, are. And you can see a lot of their different trades. There's Belfast typists, talking about a wee article talking about women's pay differences, little quotes on sort of women's working conditions and employment all over here. This was actually unveiled in 1982. It was sculpted by sculptor Louise Walsh. It was commissioned actually in the late 80s though, but there was a lot of kickback and blocking from Belfast City Council at the time, a very male-dominated and conservative council at that time. Thankfully, things have changed over the years, and the reason for it being blocked over these years is due to who these two women are actually representing. Not only are they representing obviously the different trades and work that women have done throughout history within Belfast, but they are also directly linked with Amelia Street and the history of the red light district over there, because these are said to be two sex workers. So obviously the very Puritan council at the time didn't want this happening. But if you want the full history of this beautiful sculpture, please check out our social media and check out our YouTube channel. We've covered this in full detail, and it's a fascinating story behind this. But yes, great tribute, and it was obviously placed there for a very specific reason, because of the history across the street there. While we're here, let's give you a little bit of a glimpse of the Crown Bar itself. I've covered it in previous videos, but how beautiful a bar is this? This is one of the main sort of spots around Amelia Street. Beautiful old gin palace. So definitely come in here just for a wee quick pint. There's the wee sort of booze around there you can go into. Lots of different old features I've covered in videos. You can check in my description. Back to the rest of the history of the street. Okay, so obviously called after well, the statue tributes to the sex workers of Belfast, and obviously rest of the careers that tough women of Belfast had. But the history doesn't just end at being a red light district. It actually was a very bustling area filled with factories and warehouses also. So you can see sort of some of the older buildings around there. Amelia Hall is one of the examples of that too, and then the Yurt building around the corner. But there were factories and warehouses here because it was sort of the heart of the linen industry beside it. Beside where Amelia Street and Franklin Street is. But around this sort of spot in particular, there's a huge factory. And that actually produced handkerchiefs. That's one of the main factories I saw within the street when doing a bit of research on this. And this burnt down in 1935, I believe, in this spot. I'm going to pop a picture of this. Okay, so this is them putting out the fire. And you can see it's a big blaze. I think it pretty much destroyed the building. Don't know how old these ones were. I don't know if these are replacements or not. I need to do a little bit more research into that. And you can see an article here popping up about the blaze itself and the rescue efforts that went hand in hand with that. So yeah, fascinating history to this street, Belfast's former red light district. Nowadays it's filled with revelers, people going to the pub, people eating in the wonderful restaurants around this spot. I definitely advise you coming down here. You got the likes of the Crown Bar, which is one of the most beautiful bars in Belfast, one of the most historical ones. But you can go to James Street just over there. Wade Afton's another wee bar there. This is great during the summer. This is all obviously opened up. You've got a new addition over there, the Dep, which is a Canadian sort of style eatery. But what do you guys think? Did you know about this history? Have you been to any of the bars or restaurants around this area? Make sure you let me know in the comments if I got anything wrong. Of course, I'm happy to be correct on that one. Update my facts and let me know about anything new that you would add, especially about obviously Amelia. There's not too much info on her. She might be obviously just a folklore sort of person, something our myths and legends in Belfast. And do you know anything more about the brothels that used to exist around the area? Please let me know in the comments. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel for more history and walking tour videos and things like that, and travel videos from all over the world. But thank you very much for watching this quick video on the history of Amelia Street, Belfast's former red light district. If you enjoy videos like this, give a like, comment underneath, and subscribe to our channel for more. See you later.